Hi, this is Darnell with Way Over Recipes, and this is my review of the Ninja Foodi Flip Toaster. So let's get it unboxed. Alright, so here it is, and it's got a power cord here that is a little under 3 feet in length. And they give you some paperwork. There's just like some warning thing. There's some other important safety stuff. And there's a very small guide for getting started that just gives you a few recipes, not many at all. I mean, this book is really just about, if you don't include the notes section where you can write, I mean, it's like about 15 pages. So not much to it, and not many of those are recipes, so not a lot there. There's not a manual in the box that I noticed, but you can get a manual online on Ninja's website. You can get the manual. And it doesn't have a lot of accessories. It's got this bake tray that has a handle, and you just basically, when you unbox it, you just stick that in, and you're supposed to be able to screw it in. So I'm trying to get it screwed in here. So I think if I press and turn, yeah, that does it. You press and turn, you can get it screwed in tight there. So there we go. We've got it all assembled. That's all the assembly there is to the unit. So just to show you around it, you can see, you know, the front, the side. It's got this little lever here. We'll be talking about that in a bit. You see the opposite side, there's nothing really there. Then the back, you have some exhaust. And underneath, because it's so light, I can show you underneath. It's a very light cooker. We'll talk about more of that in a moment as well. Now, interestingly enough, this is a 1500 watt cooker. It's a toaster, but it's 1500 watts, and the reason being that it can also bake and broil. So I've got some high hopes for this, because with this small form factor, 1500 watts should be able to put in a lot of work. And the temperature ranges for this cooker are between 250 degrees Fahrenheit to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. And they say of this cooker that it's got a 70% wider slot versus a traditional slot on, I guess, a conventional toaster. And it's supposed to be able to fit artisan-sized breads and bakery-style bagels. And there's no preheat required with this cooker. And they say that you're supposed to be able to cook up to 35% faster than a full-sized electric oven. And the capacity for it, they say it's supposed to be able to hold 2 slices of thick cut bread, up to 16 chicken nuggets, up to an 8-inch open face sandwich. And the product dimensions are 16.54 inches in length, 6.7 inches in width, and 8.42 inches in height, but we will do our own independent measurements. And they say something interesting on the website about weight, which I found a bit of a discrepancy on. On the website, they say that the cooker weighs 21.27 pounds, which is definitely not the case. And the FedEx box, when it shipped through FedEx, they said that the shipment that they sent me here was just 12.7 pounds. That's what all its boxes and all, 12.7 pounds. So it's a light cooker. And they, I guess, made a discrepancy on their website. Now to give you a closer up view of the cooker, you can see the big wide slot here for sticking things in. This is in the bake mode, and when it's in the kind of bake and broil position, you can take the bake pan and you can slide it on in. But before you slide it in, you've got this lever on the side, and you have to slide that all the way back to the lock position. And once that's back in the lock position, then you can take that bake pan and slide it in there and basically heat your stuff up in there, and it seems to keep things pretty tight when it's in there. Now, if you want to do toasting, you flip it up, and when you flip it up, that lever pops up, and you're kind of in your toast mode basically, and you would basically put your stuff in that you're going to toast, and then you pull the lever down on the side here after you've got your stuff in, and I guess when it's actually plugged in and all, it'll actually lock, but we'll do that later. But basically you put your stuff in and then you close it, and it basically trap jaws down on whatever you put in it, and it toasts it up. And so it's got a crumb tray, and that's interesting where the crumb tray is. That's back here in the back. Slide that out, and that's your crumb tray. It doesn't detach. It just slides out, and you can, just basically wipe it off. But that's your crumb tray to catch any stuff that drips out of it. And so that's basically a good close-up view of the cooker there. But something I do want to show you inside, you can see inside on the bottom you've got 3 heating elements across the bottom, and across the top inside you've got 3 heating elements. So try and get you a view of those. So you've basically got 3 heating elements on the top and bottom. There's no fan, but heating elements that close with 1500 watts. This stuff, I mean, it better do some good work is all I'm expecting. So we'll move things along. So now I have the Ninja Foodi Flip Toaster next to a regular old conventional toaster, an old Black & Decker toaster here. And so I'm not really going to do general measurements of the Black & Decker toaster. I mean, if you don't know about old school conventional toasters, you can look at one in the aisle of any store. But I'm going to do some general measuring of the Ninja Foodi Flip Toaster. And so we see I'm seeing exactly 16 inches across here. And with it standing up like this, whoops, dropped my tape measure there. But with it standing up like this, we're getting about 8.5 inches, well, just under 8.5 inches like that. Set it down like this, you get about 6.5 inches. And let's see, front to back, we'll do that from the little hump there. It's just a small hump for like cord management. And I'm getting, let's see, getting about 8.5 inches from front to back. Now I'm going to measure inside of it here. And we've got, because we got the rails here, so I'm doing from the inside of the rails, 2 inches inside the rails. And then this way we've got just under 10.5. And if I pull the lever down, and I don't have it plugged in, so I'm not going to electrocute myself, we go down in there, goes down just 6 inches. So I would have hoped that you could, maybe get something a little taller in there, but just down 6 inches. But compared to conventional toaster, it can only go down just about not even 3.5 inches. But actually I didn't pull it down. Sorry about that. So yeah, pulling the lever down, we're at 4.5 inches. So we've got 1.5 inches more of depth. And going across in here, we've got about 5.5 inches there. So, 5.5 there, whereas here you've got about 10.5. So basically, I guess, 5.5 plus 5.5 is going to give you 11. So you really got probably a little bit more width than you would side by side over here if you got your pieces of bread side by side. And kind of this opening here is just 1 inch. This gap here is just 1 inch, whereas here it's 2 inches. So you have 2 inches to get your bread in. You've got extra space going down on your depth, but the width is just a tad smaller. Now, just for the sake of visual comparison, this is the Ninja Foodi dual heat air fry oven next to the Ninja Foodi Flip Toaster, and you can see that the dual heat air fry oven is way larger, way bigger. So I'm not even going to bother measuring this. I've already measured it plenty in the review of it that you can see on this channel. But you can just see the difference in size between the two, how one is so much bigger and larger. and so much longer. So of course if they're standing up, one's going to be, you know, way taller. So a huge difference in size between the two. So now I'm going to plug the cooker in for our initial plug-in. So when you plug it in, there's nothing that happens, and then I'm going to turn it on. And so it's telling me with this LOC, that means you've got to lock it to have it in bake mode. It knows when it's down in its bake mode that you have to lock it back. So I lock it back, and now it's fully into bake mode after I pull the lever. And so I'm going to go through the bake functions now. Well, talk about the bake function. It's on bake. And basically bake, you can bake for up to 45 minutes at temperatures between 250 degrees Fahrenheit and 400 degrees Fahrenheit. The next function it has is broil. And broil, you can broil for up to 10 minutes, and broil is fixed at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Now do keep in mind, when you're using this with it down like this, you must use this pan here in here. If you don't use the pan, it's going to tell you to put the pan in, or it's not going to work with it lying down like this. You can't just stick stuff in here without this pan like that. You just can't do it. And the last function in this rapid oven mode that they call it is the reheat. And reheat you can do for up to 45 minutes at 250 degrees Fahrenheit to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Now I'm going to flip it up from the rapid oven mode to the toaster mode. And you see it pops up when you get into that toaster mode. Now I do need to point out with it in toaster mode, they make sure to stress that you should not put buttered toast in here. Do not put buttered toast in, or you're going to get a bunch of smoke. They say you should always butter your toast after you cook it in here. So this isn't like the air fry oven or an air fryer toaster oven or something where you could butter your toast and put it on in there and cook it up and be just fine, which I've done all the time. With this, you've got to butter the toast afterwards. Now with using the toaster, you've got toast already set here, and we've got the defrost button lit up. Basically, defrost is if you have frozen toast. If you don't have frozen toast, you can click off of defrost and it's going to just do a regular toast. But with defrost, it basically goes up. It went up from 3 to 4. Basically, when it does it with defrost, it's just going to cook it a little longer. So if you got regular toast, it does a 3. If you hit defrost, it just bumps it up to 4. And you basically can adjust your shade between 1 and 7 for your shade when you're doing toast. And so with that, after you do that, you can just pull things down and it'll just tell you it's starting. If you want to stop, you can just press that stop button and things will pop up and it'll be done quicker if you want to, you know, finish right away. And something you can also do while you're toasting, let's say you got it down, you're toasting and you want to just get a peek, you can pull the lever up. And it doesn't stop, but you put a lever up and it'll let you take a peek, and then you can let it back down like that. And so that's a quick way to take a peek at things when you're toasting if you want to get a quick look and let it keep going. Now if you're doing the bagel function, you can just hit bagel and you want your cut slices facing forward. You want the slices facing forward and cut. And you can also use that defrost option, same as you could with the toast function. And there's something else I want to point out. They do make sure to mention in the manual that the defrost and reheat options are not included on all models of this cooker. So depending on where you buy it from, it may have different features. This one has the full slate of features available, and I'm going through all of them. But if you see one in the store and you don't see a defrost button or you don't see a reheat button, you know that one doesn't have the full slate of features. They may cut price to, you know, benefit you in that regard if you don't need those, but just something to be aware of. When you buy these cookers, make sure that the cookers, not just this cooker, but I've seen this with other cookers as well, make sure that the one that you're buying has all the functions that you expect it to have. Now something I want to do, I want to check toast at shade 4 when things are cold, because it's basically, it's pretty much cold in there. But if I pull down, we get 2 minutes 10 seconds. So we're going to keep that in mind, and we'll test it again when the cooker's hot to see how it adjusts time. So now let's do some temperature testing, and I got a brand spanking new temperature gauge, because with this one, since the door is kind of tight with this bake pan in, I'm not going to be able to have something, or I don't want something that has a wire sticking out of it while I'm trying to do any temperature testing. So I'm going to stick this in there with it, and I'll put a referral link in my Amazon shop, and I'll have a link in the video description to that. So I'm just going to go ahead and unpackage this, and just going to get it out and set it. It looks like I'll be able to set it right inside of there, but I don't think I'll be able to close it up like that. So I'm going to have to lay it flat. I'm going to have to lay it down, which isn't exactly how it's supposed to be used. It's supposed to stand up. I guess I could maybe move this little tab, but I'm not going to mess with that. I'm just going to place it down like this, and just going to, with it like this, just slide it on in, and we'll use it to temperature test like that. And they do mention that you're supposed to run it for 400 degrees on bake for 10 minutes to basically do a burn off of the, I guess, packing residue or whatever like that. And those types of things do make a bit of a smell when they're doing the initial, when you're doing the initial burn off. I am not the scientist to test those fumes. They say it's safe. I am not the scientist to test those fumes, but that's what they say, and we're going to really hope and pray they're right about that. And you know, if you're a scientist who can test those things, more power to you. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to do a bake, and we're going to run temp up to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'm going to set the time. You hit the time temp here to adjust your time. So I just pressed that time temp there. And now I'm going to go up to 30 minutes. I'm just going to leave it at 30 minutes to give me a lot of time to play around with. And so now I'm going to go ahead and hit start. And we're just going to let things heat up for a little bit. So things have been going for 14 minutes. I'm just going to feel the outside, and I can tell this outside is, that's pretty hot there. This side is cool. This plastic here is cool right here. But this metal up here is hot. Over here is cool. In the back, I'm okay in the back. It's not too hot in the back. That's all right. Up front here, yeah, that's kind of hot there. So here on front and up here on top are hot. Sides are pretty much okay. The back seems to be okay. But that's something to be aware of. You don't want to burn yourself on the exterior here. Now, when I open up, I'm going to see what the temperature gauge is reading, and it's supposed to automatically pause when I pull the bake tray out. So it did a beep, and it's reading about 450 on that temperature gauge there. So we're, you know, pretty hot. We're pretty hot. I'm going to stick it on back in, and it resumes. And I'm just going to check making changes on the fly. So let's say I up it, yeah, I can just up on the fly to 30 minutes again. Or, well, I hit 31 now, it goes down to 30. Okay. And so then I just hit time temp, and I can adjust the temp. But I'll leave it at 400. But I want to check out broil. So I'm clicking on broil. Well, I can't do that on the fly. So I'm just going to stop. And now I'm going to click on the broil, and it's automatically at 400. Time will up, the maximum you can do is 10. So we'll do the maximum, and we'll hit start. We know things are already good and hot in there. So we're just going to let it go for maybe 5 minutes or 6 minutes, and then have a look and just see if things might be a little hotter. We'll see what broil does, and we'll let that run for a bit. So we've let it run on broil for over 5 minutes. I'm going to pull things out, and we're just a little over 450, just a little. So I think broil may have gotten things just a tad hotter, just a teeny tiny bit hotter. Not a lot hotter, but just a little bit. But it cooks pretty hot, and given it's 1500 watts, I would expect that in this small form factor. So I'm going to stop the cook now. I'm going to go back to bake, and I'm going to, let's see what our time temp is. It remembers 30, so it remembers my 30 minutes there. If I go to broil, hit time, it remembers my 10 minutes there, so it remembers what my previous cooks are. Let's say I unplug the cooker, and so we unplug things here, and now I'm going to plug it on back in, and I'm going to turn it on. And now that it's back on, it's showing the broil, and I do my time. It remembers my 10 minutes there. I do my bake. It remembers my 30 minutes there. So we've got real good memory going on. Now while it's still hot, I'm going to flip it up here into the toaster mode, and just going to test toasting. It's on toast shade 4. Let's hit start. Well, actually I need to pull this thing down first. Yeah, so it's still showing 2 minutes 10 seconds. So I know it's very hot. It didn't adjust. It didn't adjust at all for being very hot versus kind of cool. So that's kind of interesting there. It didn't adjust. So now I'm going to do a toast test. I've got some, it's short, it's small, low carb bread, and it's right out the fridge. And I'm going to set it down to level 3, and with the cooker being totally cool, it shouldn't overcook it. And just going to go ahead and pull down on that. Now on 3, it does 2 minutes. We saw at 4, it did 2 minutes 10 seconds, so just does a little longer for 4 than it does for 3. But we're going to go ahead and let this toast and see what we get when it pops up. And so our bread's done. We see the job that it did on both sides. Pretty decent. Pretty decent. Let's have a look at this other one. Got toasted on both sides there. And so it's interesting on this side. It looks like it got a little more toasted on this side than on the back side. So it looks like the top, you know, the top heating, or what would be the top heating elements, maybe they put in a little bit more work than the bottom ones, but I guess that's how it goes with doing some toast. So now I'm going to do a bake test of some artichoke. This is a whole large artichoke that I have basically cut the sharp edges off of, cut in half, put some extra light olive oil on it, put some lemon pepper seasoning on it. And so we're going to go ahead and heat that in here and see how bake does cooking this up. So if I can get it in here, let's see. Looks like it's kind of close to touching the top. I'm going to have to cut off some more of the leaves in order to get it in there. Alright, so after pulling some of the outer edge leaves off, things are a little slimmer. You can go in here a little easier. So I've got to pull the lever back, and now put it on in here. And we're going to turn the cooker on. I'm going to set it to bake. I'm going to move the time down to an even 350. And with 350, I'm going to keep that time at 30 minutes. We'll see how it does at 350 for 30 minutes there. With things so compact and close, I think that'll do okay. So we're going to go ahead and let that cook, and I'll bring you back. Alright, so it just finished cooking after 30 minutes. We'll see what we have. And that's how they look, our nicely baked artichokes. And so going to basically plate both of those. I'm just going to move the cooker out of the way so that you can have a good look at them. So there they are. And just going to let it cool down for a quick moment. So gave the artichokes a little time to cool down just a little bit. Now I'm just going to go right to the heart of the matter, as they say. I'm going to cut right into the artichoke heart. See if I can just maybe taste a little piece of that there. Just kind of getting in there. Let's just do a quick thank God and taste. Alright, it's very good. It did tenderize it up, cooking it that long. So it did a good job. So now I'm going to do a broil test with 5 frozen sausage patties. One thing I didn't do earlier, I didn't measure this pan. So I'm just measuring this pan really quick and trying not to get it onto my sausage, but it's about 10 inches across, about 10 inches. And this way here, width is about, let's see, yeah, it's a little over 5.5 inches, about 5 3/4 inches that way. So 5 3/4 by 10 is my measure. So sticking it on in there and going to go over to broil, and we're going to make sure that the time is at the full 10 minutes. We'll see what it can do, and hit start with that, and we'll let things cook. Alright, so I've been broiling for 10 minutes. And see how things look. It looks like they've cooked some. They look like they need a little more time in my opinion. So I'm going to put it on back and going to set the time down to 5 minutes. So basically get 15 minutes total broiling. And so just going to let that run 5 more minutes and I'll bring you back. So now we're coming to the end of 15 minutes of broiling at 400 degrees Fahrenheit of frozen sausage patties. They look really well cooked now, and testing the temperature, they're like 190 somethings. Yeah, it's like 195, 190. So they were well cooked, and it took for them to get as done as I like them done. It took more than 10 minutes, and I mean, in any type of cooker, it would take more than 10. So gave them 15 minutes. It looks like it did a decent job. Now I want to talk about cleaning the cooker. Everything is to be hand washed, nothing in the dishwasher. And just use like a mild cloth and use some soap and water and warm water, and then wipe it down, wipe all the stuff down and clean it all off, and then a damp one with nothing on it to just kind of remove that soap off of it, all the soap residue. And you're supposed to clean it after every use, and the crumb tray, as I showed earlier, you just pull out and wipe that off. And one thing that they mention is to avoid cooking greasy, fatty foods that create grease splatter, because the grease buildup will be harder to clean over time. So although I did show you how to cook sausage patties in here, that is not something that they recommend you do on a regular basis. So let's talk about the warranty. If you buy direct from Ninja, they give you a 60-day money-back guarantee. But if you buy anywhere else, Ninja gives you a 1-year limited warranty. And so the choice is yours with all of that. I will put in the video description a direct referral link that if you buy it through the referral link, you pay the same price you'd always pay, but you help this channel in doing so. Also in the video description, there are other ways to help the channel, such as my cookbook and other ways you'll see. And so with all of that said, I think that the cooker does a pretty decent job for what it was made for. It can do your toasting, it can do your baking, it can do your broiling. It's small, it's compact, but that is its design. It's made like that. But it can do dual function. It can be your pop-up toaster and it can be your baker. And I don't know any other cooker that can be your pop-up toaster and your baker too. So with all of that said, if you did like this video, give it a thumbs up, share the video with a friend, leave your comments, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification icon, and good eating.